Hello, welcome in. This is Tour du Monde, stage 11. As you can see here, I'm literally getting on the bike as the event starts. This is at 3:30 in the morning for me, so getting up at 3:20 or whatever, 3:15, and getting set up, getting going is pretty rough. The pace off of the start is crazy. It may have been just because I had no warm up, but man, these guys were like rockets. So I had to dig pretty deep just to make this front group, and I wasn't 100% sure of the course. I knew we went around Alcatraz here, but I didn't know if we had one of the like Hawk Hills climbs or Mount but luckily we didn't. Luckily the only real climbing with these rollers through Alcatraz and some other ones along the way. But overall, this is I really enjoy this race because there's a lot of little details, little things that can help, not only me get better at racing on MyWhoosh, but others. A lot of little things that I've picked up just in the past year, me riding on MyWhoosh, especially since they fixed the power delay. The biggest thing I've noticed with MyWhoosh compared to Zwift and IndyVelo and some of the other platforms out there is the draft is much smaller, so you really got to pay attention. You can draft, definitely. You can definitely save some watts per kilograms riding in a group, and one of the biggest things is just knowing that it's smaller, so you have to stay a little more attentive. You can't just kind of really hang at the back here and everything's okay, because right there's a little gap, and these little gaps like this can really be devastating. In one of the Sunday race clubs, in another video I have on in California, the coast and country, a chasing group, me and like 3-4 other guys got close to another group, and we didn't completely connect to the draft. We were like a few meters off, and we actually never got back, and we were right there. But those little surges like that, those little where it kind of separates, if you lose that draft, it can be devastating to get back, and you may not get back. So here's another little tactic I'm going to kind of use. Sit about front third, raise the power, so I don't have to really react to what the group's going to do, because I'm assuming this is going to be a spot where they're going to attack. So I am, upwards of 6 watts per kilogram here, but I can kind of be steady. I don't have to surge or go really over the top. I can just kind of ride what I feel, and as I kind of die out here, they are catching up to me. So through that dip, you'll see as we go along, because we have 3 laps of this, that I use that same tactic every time. And I'm running MyWhoosh HD, and I have to use my laptop for to get into the UCI worlds. The difference between the two are amazing. Like MyWhoosh HD has a couple issues. For the most part, I've been a-okay with running it. And right here I had just a small disconnect, and I was actually testing my my secondary power, because it's straight lost connection a few times in my last few rides. So I was riding with it connected, and it actually switched over right here. This isn't a dual recording required race or anything. It was just I just had it paired. I had to drop out the kicker, and it switched over and started using it and went back to the kicker. So I was that's kind of nice to know if you're doing these events like this and you do have a secondary power meter, you can connect it, and it does work like it's supposed to. Now it only worked in the event, because after this in my cooldown, my kicker lost connection again, and it didn't switch over. So I was kind of curious if that's a event only aspect. And here I'm gonna roll through the pack here in these bumps through Alcatraz, I kind of start at the back and use some momentum to get through so I don't have to react. You can see I'm 4 or 5 watts per kilogram or so in that bump, and I didn't really have to go into, over 5 watts per kilogram, which is right now my top end, the like 5.2. We're going to do the same thing here, just ramp it up a little early so I got some speed going into this bump. And you'll see other people really surging 7 watts, 6.5, and I'm upwards of 6, but I really didn't have to punch real hard. And now I get to the top and I can kind of rely on the draft because it's evening out. Now you got to keep on it because you don't want any of these little gaps to form. And this series has been great. Hopefully we get some evening USA times, because the latest time offered is like 2 p.m. and most people in the Americas part of the world, North and South America, are still at work at that point. So hopefully we get some more evening time and hopefully get some more participation in events in the evening, because every event that I've done, what would be European, I guess, times, anywhere up till like this 2 p.m. like, I'm sorry, 3:30 a.m. up to 2 p.m. has been pretty well participated in, been pretty good attendance. So the Americas, we need to bolster up that American rider base for MyWhoosh. So we're going to just kind of roll through here. We're coming up to these rollers again. And overall, in MyWhoosh, I like sitting in the front third. Like, for some reason, it could just be mental, but I feel like I'm in a better position to react to moves, so I'm not so far back. Because sometimes when you're so far back, it's hard to really see what's going on there. It's like, you miss those small little gaps. But I'm still using the same tactic as kind of just bumping the power up just a little before the actual roller starts. And we're going to come back into this dip, do the same exact thing, hit the power, let it surge. And you can see my watts per kilogram. I didn't have to go as high as everyone else. And now this is one thing that this turn really helped me see. I could see it stretching out. And right here, one guy off the front, a gap, 2 guys, and then right in front of me a small gap. So I'm like, I don't want, because I'm assuming the yellow jersey is the leader, so he's obviously strong. And I'm not sure if that's just a standard MyWhoosh jersey or not. I haven't really delved into the jerseys here. But these little gaps like this, when they happen, if you don't react, that draft isn't big enough to kind of just suck you back. So you have to fill that gap. If you don't want to get dropped, you have to get that, fill that gap. You have to do the work, because sometimes relying on other people to do it, they may not do the work. They may be relying on you. They may have the same thought. So that is one aspect of MyWhoosh that you really have to be attentive when you're racing like this. Small little openings like that, one little attack, that could be it. We're just kind of cruising here. And it's funny, the recording, it must be when I record, there's little hesitations that have come up with this, because I've noticed it. I don't really notice it in game, but when they're recording it is. So I may have to adjust some settings and do some different adjustments to make this more smooth, because I didn't notice it while I was riding at all. So it must be something with the recording. We're coming back through here. I'm going to do the same exact thing, kind of sit toward the back, bump up the power, move through the group. And I can kind of tell people are getting a little bit tired because the pace is slowed down just a little bit. We're not hitting these as hard. We're hitting them hard, but it's definitely not as big of a punch as it was at the beginning. And I know a couple of these guys in this race, so I know everyone here. Or I shouldn't say know everyone. I know enough to know that this is a pretty strong field. And obviously, if you got to this point, you're definitely one of the stronger riders of this race. Now here we can see we got another attack. We're going to come through. And I wasn't expecting it to go this hard, but they really punched it. And we're going to watch Rolf here. He's a very strong rider, so I'm not 100% sure with him. So if Rolf comes across this, you know, maybe you can comment, but you can see there's a little bit of gap he's got. And it's not that big, and he's still doing power, so that's why I'm not sure if it was a little bit of a dropout or just a hesitation in going with the move. But he's close. He never makes it back, and I'm not 100% sure what happened with him. But those are the small things. Just got one little in a group like this, that draft, you get separated just in that. The smallest amount, you lose a draft, and then he never comes back. So that's the biggest thing about MyWhoosh, is you have to pay attention to these small little gaps or small little things. And that little bump on that bridge wasn't a huge attack. It was just enough power raise to, like, when you're coasting along, you got a small gap and you're off. And unfortunately, Rolf didn't make it to the finish because he was still working, so that's why I assume it was just a small lapse of, you know, maybe he was getting a drink or eating a gel. I don't know. Maybe he was just sneezing. And unfortunately, that was it. Coming back into this dip, and I'm assuming this is going to really hit hard, so I go kind of hard. I go a bit later, but I go harder because I'm expecting it to be a higher effort, and it ultimately wasn't. It wasn't nearly as hard as what I thought it was going to be. So we got about 4K to go. I'm pretty tired at this point, but I'm pretty happy for being here. So I really don't know. I'm assuming someone's going to make a long attack, and we see two guys kind of here going off the front, and I want to cover it, so I just make that move. Get across the front. Now everyone comes with us. Didn't really go anywhere. Probably didn't have to do that effort, but you don't know. So I just came across that little gap, got the group back together. And the other thought was, I know we're going to come to a sprint, so I can get the group back together. You know, it'll help me recover just enough. And then right around here, Sammy goes off the front. And I'm like, man, I don't know if I can even go with this. Luckily, it strung out just enough for me to maintain draft and stay within front group here. Now we do have a rider off the front, and he ultimately got annulled. I don't know if it was for what the reason was exactly, but as we're coming to the finish, you know, there is another rider. I think he was like 3 minutes in front of us. So one of the biggest difference was MyWhoosh sprints is you actually have to have the raw power. Like, the draft isn't as big, so the raw power is the biggest thing. And I'm already started way too late, honestly, with my sprint. But I was fortunate that I was able to get by these guys right here, come across the line right behind Gier and Patrick, who this was the actual front group here. The other guy got annulled, so excellent racing. It was a lot of fun. This is one of the few sprint finishes that I've had on MyWhoosh, so I really enjoyed this. The few races that I did, I think I did 3. They were very, very well, very good races. A lot of fun, and really appreciate OTR for organizing these and putting these together. And it was good racing from the guys. So hopefully you guys picked up a few tips off this. The more I rewatch these videos and go through there, the more little things like that I even pick up that I missed while racing. So thank you very much. I hope to see you out there.